Hey, babe, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Doing good. We are recording in our kitchen, and we are joined by our two big dogs. So you're probably going to hear eating in about 3 seconds. You're going to hear walking around. You're going to hear slurping of water.
And when Joshua comes downstairs, you'll probably hear barking.
Yeah, for sure.
Our new puppy, I say new, we've had her a year, is for some reason still scared to death of Joshua.
Yeah, but she has a right to be scared of Joshua. He's
Well,
scary.
in his defense, she's scared of everybody but us, just about.
Yeah, that's true. So you said earlier today we were talking. You said you had something you wanted to talk about before we talk about our topic today.
Yeah, I had a question I wanted you to answer.
Okay, and you have to answer it too.
Because you have to, you know this about me, but I'm very self-reflective, probably more than I should be. So I'm always constantly thinking about things that my counselor has said in the past, things that I can improve about myself, things that I can, I don't know, just work on whatever in life. But so the other day, this thought crossed my head. What is the one thing I would change about myself if I could? Besides all the physical stuff that I would love to.
All right.
Fix.
So are you going to answer first?
No, you're going to answer first.
That is a very hard question because there are a lot of things I would change about myself. But I truly, as cheesy as this sounds, I do think that the things about me that I think are faults are the reason that I'm where I am today. Like, for instance, one of the things I would change about myself if I could is whenever I get into something like a hobby or I get into just something, I put my all into it. So, for instance, I got into bourbon. So as a result, I have 300 bottles of bourbon. We moved to Kentucky to be around bourbon. But I was that kid who, when you watch TV, there's always that kid that just doesn't know when to quit and just puts his all into every relationship, whether it's trying to get a girlfriend or trying to have a friend. Like, I put my all into everything to the point that it's like cringy sometimes. And I look back on my life and I think, like, why did I act like that? Why did I do that? But it's that persistence that got me where I am today. And so, but I don't like that about myself. Like, I would change that. And along that same line, like we were talking about this earlier today, you and I, but I get mad at people and I get upset with people, but I don't stay upset very long.
This is true. I can hold a grudge forever. He cannot.
It frustrates me because there are times in my life when I want to stay mad at somebody for a long period of time. Here's a perfect example. So the other day I bought a lot of stuff for salad. I bought bacon bits. I bought cranberries. I bought sunflower seeds, all this kind of stuff to kind of top my salads off with. I went into the pantry the next day. My whole bag of bacon bits were gone. So I texted you and I said, hey, did you by chance eat all of my bacon bits? And you said no. So Joshua will eat all my bacon bits or do stuff like that. And I will be furious with him. But then he'll text me and ask me some kind of dumb question or ask me for money or whatever. And then it's like, for whatever reason, I'm not mad at him anymore. And I don't know. It's just, I wish I could hold a grudge longer and be mad longer than I am.
But like back with what you were saying about you give your all to stuff, I think that's why you and I have not only been married so long, but we actually still enjoy our marriage. I mean, like this morning we got up, we went to an appointment together, and then we just hung out. Like, we didn't have anywhere to be, anywhere to go, and we just had fun. Like, I enjoyed talking to you, and even though I don't understand some of the stuff that you do video wise, I enjoy listening to you talk about it. And I know you could care less about things that I see in the ER, but you let me talk about it. And I think that that's why, because, like we went to Ulta because I wanted to go. And there are just so many couples out there that they're all about themselves as far as individually, that they might still be married, but they're not happily married because they're in their little corner wondering, well, he hasn't done this for me in a few days. And I just don't do that. Like, I'm always trying to figure out how I can make somebody else's life easier, almost to a fault, to where there are certain people in my life now that I have to kind of scale back on that, because I felt like I was, doing and doing and doing, and either they didn't want me to, they weren't appreciating, or it just wore me out. So I'm learning now to spend my time and energy on people that, I don't want to say that matter, because everybody matters, but people that I'm closer to, and that I know not so much will appreciate it, because I feel like I don't do things just to get thank yous or appreciation or whatever, but I'm just tired of trying to appease people that I really couldn't care less if they liked me or not. You know what I mean?
I get it. So is that your thing that you would change about yourself?
No, my thing that I wish I could change about myself, and I've really tried, and Mom and I have had this discussion, and Bethany and I have had the discussion, and I just think that you're either born with it or you're not, is organization. Like, I try so hard to stay organized around here or at work. I think I do better at work, but it's because it's more of a controlled environment. Like, I literally have my one little cubicle, and especially with just now starting this new job, I'm kind of able to take how it was being done and formulate how it's easier for me to do it. So I've redone some of the forms and folders and things like that. But, and I do have my one little room upstairs that's just mine. But even that, so I get up in the morning, I go in that room, and that's where I get dressed and stuff. But my clothes aren't in there. So every morning I'm taking clothes and leaving clothes. And so, like, today I went up there, and all of my pajamas from the week where I had gone in there and changed clothes for work were in there, because after work, I don't go up there and straighten it up. So I'm just not very organized. I want to be I'll clean out cabinets all the time. And how many times I've organized our Tupperware shelf. And
well, there's a good reason why stuff doesn't stay organized in our house. It's called Hurricane Joshua.
I mean, that is part of it. And having kids is part of that. Like, gosh, when all three of them lived here, I just gave up. It was like, there was just it was like living with a bunch of little tornadoes. But, now it's just kind of us and Joshua when he's here, and I still can't stay organized. But I just think that either you're that way. Like my mom, her closet has always been,
there's something wrong with your mom.
But I envy that about her. But she's got like all of her short sleeve shirts are here, and the red ones are here, and the off red ones are here. And so she can literally, I always joke with people that if you ask my mom for a receipt from 1986, she could go right to it in her filing cabinet that she keeps. And if you ask me for the receipt from lunch today, I would have no idea where. It's probably in my car somewhere on the floorboard or something. But
they have medicine for that for her. Like,
I mean, I think that's a good thing. I mean, as long as it doesn't. Sometimes I don't think it does as much now as it used to. But I think that she used to get stressed when things weren't organized, and that's not good, because you would stay stressed. But I think she's gotten better about letting things go, but she still is and she always says, organization is the ultimate, I forget how she says it. Organization is the ultimate laziness, because she's like, I put something where it is. I know where it is. I don't have to find it. I don't have to spend time finding it. And I'm like, I wish I was that way. Like, I don't feel like I'm lazy, but when I come in from work, I just kind of throw stuff wherever it lands.
But you know what? So as most of you know, our daughter and husband, they've just bought a house, and we spent Thanksgiving there, and then I spent the next week at their house. And as we record this, I'm going back to their house tomorrow for my work next week. But when I was at their house, of course, it's a brand new house. They're brand new married, so they don't have a lot of stuff. They haven't collected stuff. But I just remember being at their house and thinking, like, my gosh, like, they're like, everything's so clean and new.
It's a brand new house.
Yeah, it's a new house, but they have new everything. They have new towels. They have new this. They have new that. And when I was there last week, I thought, like, you get to where you're like, oh man, everything here is so nice and neat and everything has a place and whatever. And so when I came back home, like the first day I was here, I was like, we're going to straighten up the living room and kitchen and, whatever. But it took me like a day and I started to realize, like, this is home to me though. Like when you go somewhere else, you like staying in hotels, but I think the reason is because it's just different and, things are newer to us because we don't have, it's just a new place.
But I really like Airbnbs just because I like being
well, yeah, but it's because it's new. But to me, when I came back, it took me like literally one day and I was like, this is home. Like I like having, by my seat in the living room, there's my bourbon glass from last night that I will use tonight or what, it's just.
I think too, my thing is I finally come to grips with the fact that like our house, we have a nice house. It's lived in for sure. Like I don't like stuff on the counter, but I mean, we just kind of have to have stuff on the counter, but, it's just little things like when I go to open the refrigerator and there's yuck underneath the handle because somebody, I'm not mentioning names, who I love dearly, he'll get something out of the refrigerator, he'll touch something with his hands or whatever, and then he'll open the fridge. And so I'll go to open it. It's like either it's slimy or it's gross. And I'm like, how much energy does it take to wipe down a handle? Or, when you cook and stuff, and I know you don't realize this because it's, especially now that I painted the cabinets darker, but food is dripping. There's drops of food on the cabinet. I got to wipe all that off. But we have animals and I could vacuum every day and it's never going to be clean, but I love my animals and I'm willing to have hairy floors and have my animals who keep me warm at night.
Yeah. As we record this, I'm looking at our kitchen table and there's hair all over the kitchen table because there's hair everywhere.
Everywhere.
All right. So we have exhaustively talked about this and we haven't even gotten to the topic that we were tapped to talk about today. So why don't we get into that?
Welcome to Loving Our 25 to Life. I'm Heather.
And I'm Bo. Together we've been married over 25 years.
Yeah, baby!
And this is where we talk about life, love, and all the adventures we have had along the way.
Oh, wow.
Whether we're sharing stories from our marriage or taking you along one of our trips, we're here to reflect on how we've made it this far and where we are headed next.
So grab a seat, settle in, and let's dive into another episode of Loving Our 25 to Life. Okay, so we're here to talk about our wedding. So the last couple of weeks, we have been talking about stuff that was going on in the now, but where we left off in our story, we had talked about our engagement, and then we talked about being in the ministry together, and that led up to our wedding. So what do you want to say about our wedding?
Bo hated our wedding because it was long, but
very long.
I loved it. I had the perfect dress for me, which, I mean, now that was 26 years ago. Now the dress would be completely outdated, but it was the second dress that I tried on and I loved it. I've always, ever since I was a little girl, I wanted a long train and it had a long train and it fit perfectly. And I rented my dress. So the fact that I found it second try and it fit, but that was my thing. I didn't care about anything but the dress. And so,
well, I'm going to back. I did not hate our wedding.
You did. You complain about it all the time.
No. I didn't complain about it then. My problem with our wedding now is now that I've over the past 10 years, I have filmed weddings. So I've videoed weddings and done that kind of stuff. And just seeing the transition of how weddings are today versus how weddings were back then. I wish back then weddings were the way they are today. So,
well, you're right. Because when we got married, the ceremony was the big thing and you didn't have
there was no
dancing and music. And I mean, we were at the time we were both youth ministers in Southern Baptist churches. So there was no dancing, and
Right.
you had the ceremony, and then you went over to the fellowship hall and you had cake. And
I don't even remember. Did we do did we do like a daddy-daughter dance?
no, there was no dancing at all.
That. So
you just walked around and everybody congratulated you, and you ate. We didn't get to eat, but the guests, and even back then, like we had our ceremony and then we spent 30, 45 minutes taking pictures. So by the time we even got over to the reception, most people were gone or they were headed out. So back in that day, this ceremony, at least where we were from, was the big thing. And I'm like, if I'm spending this much money on this wedding, it's going to be a nice ceremony. So we had my Uncle Luther read out of 1 Corinthians 13, and then the music minister that was at the church when I was there had an amazing voice, and she sang a few songs for us. And then we actually had our childhood pastor and the pastor of the church where I was youth. We got married in the church where I was the youth minister at the time that we got married, Midway Baptist Church in Meridian, Mississippi. And so Brother Keith was the pastor there, and I had been there for about 18 months, and he and I had developed a good relationship, and I had a lot of respect for him. So I wanted him to do the ceremony, and then we both wanted Brother Bruce to also be part of it. He was
who was our
childhood, our hometown preacher. So they tag teamed that, and I don't know, it was just a good. I do know that the last picture I ever had made with my dad was right before he walked me down the aisle, and we were about to walk down the aisle, and the lady, I guess maybe it was a guy, whoever our photographer was. He had told us, okay, when you start walking down the aisle, look back at me. I want to shoot a quick picture before you head down. And Dad, I guess, had forgotten that. So we started walking, and I stopped and I looked back. And when Dad looked back, I have this picture on my phone, but he looked so scared. But it wasn't that he was scared. He was just like, he had that look like, like somebody was trying to talk to him. But that was fun. I love that picture of us.
I remember one of the funniest things about our wedding was the night before, we get through doing the rehearsal. And I guess Brother Keith assumed that we were going to have a big bachelor party, which literally I was lame at 23. Like, what we went back to you, and you stayed with all your people at the hotel, and I stayed with my guys at your apartment. Mm-hmm. And we literally just played Nintendo. Yeah. Xboxes didn't even exist back then. We played Nintendo all night. And however, the funny thing was, I'm not going to name any names in this because I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. But Brother Keith had told us the night before, got me and all my groomsmen together and said, don't do anything stupid. This is a wedding is a covenant between you two and God. And so don't put condoms and stuff all over the car, and don't don't draw penises on the window, just stuff like that, which, whatever. So what my guys did instead is, at the reception, I don't know if you remember this, but we laid disposable cameras on every table, and we wanted people to take, pictures of them, whatever. So I got about 3 of those cameras back, and some of my groomsmen had taken the cameras into the bathroom and taken pictures of themselves, which to this day I don't.
Where are those pictures? I guess they didn't develop them.
That's what I was going to say. It blew my mind that they developed those pictures. I think you threw them away because I
don't remember seeing them.
You were mad about it, but I thought it was funny. And so, yep, that's pretty much what happened. And I'm assuming part of it was they were going to do it anyway, and part of it was because Brother Keith had told us not to do whatever. So, but yeah, so they did that. But yeah, I didn't have or want a traditional bachelor party. Just all of us guys went back. And
so I do remember, let me ask you this first, because I've been seeing these trends on TikTok. Like, what was, when you saw me for the first time coming down? Because back then you didn't see the bride or groom didn't see each other the day of the wedding. And we got married, I think, around 2:30 in the afternoon. So you had not seen me all day or whatever. So what did you think when they opened the doors and Dad and I started walking down?
Well, if you know me, like we talked earlier in our pre-discussion about, I've always just given everything my all, and that goes for my emotions too. So I'm like, especially in my younger days, I never really could control my emotions all that well. So of course I was crying like a baby, and I will say this, my dad, I've never seen my dad really. I've only seen my dad cry 2 times in his life. That was when my great grandmother, his grandmother, when she died, I saw my dad cry. And then at our wedding, I saw him cry. That's the only 2 times to this day.
I think he was crying though because he didn't want you to marry me.
No,
he was like, oh, anybody but her. I do remember that though, because we were in the ceremony doing the different things, and between you and your dad, you would hear like the whole thing. And people thought I was heartless because I didn't cry, but I had prepped myself all morning long because I didn't want to ruin my makeup and I didn't want mascara to go everywhere. And the time that I came the closest to crying was you had written a song, remember? Mm-hmm. And I think you knew you wouldn't be able to sing it live because of the emotion of the day or whatever. So you had it pre-recorded and played it for me, and I didn't know it. That was part of the ceremony that I didn't have planned out or whatever, and that got me choked up. But I didn't cry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I do remember that. Now, let's talk about a little bit about the day before. So you always say you weren't a bridezilla, but the day before you were a bridezilla. So when we were getting ready, I can't remember all the logistics, but we were getting ready to go over to the church to do all of the stuff. But like your whole family was already in town. They came in really early. So like my family, my parents and my grandparents, all of them, they didn't come in till like later that night. So they came to the rehearsal and they went to the rehearsal dinner. But earlier that day when we're taking stuff to the church and doing whatever, your whole family was in town. Your people, like all of them were in town. And so we were eating at this restaurant, and me and I think 1 or 2 of my groomsmen, like Matthew, he was already there to help us and that kind of stuff. And I guess we were acting stupid, and you started yelling at us because we weren't doing what we were supposed to. And then I remember that night you told me, like, what time did we get married? It was like
2:30.
2:30. So we had to be at the church early to, do stuff. And you made sure that I knew that to be at the church early and ready to work and not to screw around. And I was like, oh, okay, I got this.
I think though, I don't remember the rehearsal thing, but I always have been, and I'm better about it now through much medication and therapy. But when my whole family would ever get together, it was always stressful for me, even as a kid, because I was always the peacemaker and I wanted to make sure everybody was getting along. And then we throw your family into that mix that night.
And I'm the same way with my family. I used to be the same way with my family.
So I think probably if I snapped at y'all, it was because y'all were the thing I could control in that moment. Like I couldn't, if I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Like, but now I'm not so much like that. Like I was telling my daughter this the other night that, the best thing my therapist told me recently was let people have their feelings, because I'm always worried about if I say this, is it going to upset this person? Or if I do this, is it going to upset this person? And she was like, don't worry about that. That you can't control their feelings, which I wish she had told me that 40 years ago, but that's something I'm working on. I mean, I'm not going to outright be an a-hole, to upset people. And I want to be nice to everybody. But I used to wouldn't post certain things on Facebook because I'm like, oh, if I post this about this person and this person sees it and they'll be like, what about me? But you can't police that. Like you have to. Right. So that was probably what it was, is I was so stressed about our families coming together. And there were certain parts of each of our family that didn't get along at the time or don't get along or whatever. And so in my mind, I was probably looking around trying to make sure that this person is happy and this person's, but now I'd be like, y'all are all adults. You can figure it out.
Absolutely. But yeah, so I did want to touch on this too for a second. I want to go back to like the weddings back then versus the way they are now. Our wedding was like 45 minutes long. Like the ceremony was 45 minutes long. Like weddings today, and when Bethany, when she got married, between Caleb, Bethany, and even Joshua, they all took turns helping me film weddings. So some weddings I would take Bethany with me. Some weddings I would take Caleb with me and Joshua. But I remember when Bethany would go with me, she would always want to like have the conversation with me like, should I do this at my wedding? Should I do this at my wedding? This is even before her and Eric were together, but she, wanted, when I have a wedding, I want to do this. And one of the things that she liked about certain weddings is we filmed different types of weddings. So we would film weddings, and some of them, the ceremony would last literally 5 minutes. And then the focus was on the after party thing. And the way most weddings are today that I have filmed, at least, that the focus is on that. So the ceremony's 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. And then it's like a whole night of dancing and just partying and whatever. And so Bethany wanted that, and which I think, but I love the way Bethany's wedding turned out. And that's what I mean. I just wish it would have been like that back then, but ours was so, when I look back now, and I mean, I guess back then it was just traditional because all of our other friends, I mean, our friends, Andy and Krista, got married like a week after ours or 2 weeks after ours. And it was the same kind of thing. It was very churchy and formal. Yeah. And so, but I just look at the ones today and like Bethany's, like I had a literal blast at Bethany's wedding, just dancing, acting like an idiot.
But yet the ceremony, even though it was short, was very intimate and very, I think, special because of they did their own vows, and I just thought it was a good ceremony, but that's just not.
But it's
how
just,
it was back then.
All things have kind of changed. Like we're sitting here right now in our kitchen. I'm looking over at our china cabinet, and like I've even asked Bethany before, do you want our china cabinet and all of our china? Because we don't use it. We don't. I mean, when we back then, our parents had all that kind of stuff, and so we thought that's what you're supposed to do. So we got a bunch of that stuff, and we've used it maybe once in 26 years.
I think it's funny is when Eric and Bethany and any, people that I've worked with or whatever, when people are, we're registered, go look, this is what you can get us. And it's stuff like, stuff that they wouldn't normally buy for themselves, like a nugget ice maker and back when we got married, you had to pick out your everyday china and you had to pick out your fine china. And so people were buying me $18 plates, and which, like you said, we've used them maybe once. And so there's probably $1,000 or more of dishes in that cabinet that could have gone to cool things like a nugget ice maker or, a towel warmer or things that we never would have bought for ourselves. But that was just now, because I remember when Bethany started talking about registering for stuff, we're like, you got to register for your dishes. And she was like, what the heck, Mom? And that's when we realized people don't do that anymore. Like you go buy whatever dishes you want, and they don't have to be $18 a plate.
Yeah. So that's it. I wanted to clear up that when I say I didn't like our wedding, I don't mean I didn't like it at the time. I thought it was beautiful at the time. I just now seeing what it could have been, even though those didn't exist back then. I just wish our wedding could have been more fun, and we could have had dancing and a party, and could have been cool. I mean, definitely. I don't know about your friends that you had there, but my friends that I had there, it would have been a party, but it just wasn't even a thing back then. And I'm not even sure like it registered, because like me and my friends would go out and have fun. It just never clicked back then that you could include fun in your wedding. It all had to be, And I will say this, I'm not trying to throw her under the bus, but your mom was very instrumental in the fact that we had to have a prayer here and a this here and a prayer here and a song here and a this here and a that there. And the formality of it all definitely came from them, like her and my mom or whoever, but it just
Yeah, because I told Mom from the beginning when we set a date, whatever, I was like, because my mom had always talked about how she couldn't wait to plan my wedding, and I'm like, you can do it, you can have at it. The only thing I want to do is pick out my dress, and that's it. And of course, we did things like I wanted precious. I was real big into precious moments at the time, and I wanted precious moments invitations and announcements and stuff, and those were pretty pricey even back then. And we were on a very fixed budget because of all the stuff that we were going through with Dad and his health and all that. But I was like, I just want the dress. And so it was so awesome the way our church people came together. And I mean, we probably didn't spend hardly anything on the reception because literally the two Nancys, do you remember Nancy Van Buren? I think it was Nancy Van Buren and Nancy Nicholas, got a pickup truck and just went around Meridian and to all the church members' houses and looked at things that would make good decorations. And they knocked it out of the park. They turned an old church gym into one of the most beautiful reception areas that you would pay money for. And so, Matthew's mom did my flowers, and so she did a fantastic job with those. And, so we didn't, the dress was only $150 because I rented it. And then I don't know how much the invitations and stuff were. We had a very, I thought it was a beautiful wedding, and we didn't spend a whole lot on decorations or reception stuff or whatever.
I will say this too. Here's another little argument you and I had. Do you remember? So your mom wanted your little cousins, who were little bitty at the time, 5 and 3 maybe, something, Emily and Logan, to be the ring bearer and the flower girl. Isn't that right?
Mm-hmm.
Was she?
She was 2.
Yeah, maybe 2. And so you were so worried that, we had seen videos before where, the kids in the wedding, like the ring bearers throwing the pillow up and down and just acting like crazy. And you were so worried that they were going to do that, and you didn't want your wedding ruined by kids acting like kids. And I thought that would have been the coolest thing if like Logan would have run down the aisle and like knee slid to the altar or whatever. I wanted that to happen so bad, but they were both really good. But
that's the thing though. And I guess, I don't know if it comes with the way we were raised or age or whatever, but I tell Bethany and Caleb all the time that I wish they had the mom that Joshua has, because when Bethany and Caleb were growing up, I cared so much about, they had to be dressed a certain way and they had to match, and, they couldn't be wrinkled. And I worried so much about what people would say about them, kids and neighbors. Parents, grandparents, neighbors, everything. I wanted to be a good mom. And then now Joshua, I'm just like, he's a good kid. We've done a good job. And if people appreciate that, fine. If they don't, that's on them and not on us. But I feel like I was harder on Bethany and Caleb because I was so worried about what other people thought.
Well, and this is definitely for another podcast, but I think it's because we had, no offense to any of our family, but we had a lot of our family members felt the need to tell us how we should do this, how we should raise our kids, how we should do this. And back then we thought, well, they're the adults. They have the right to tell us how to. And now looking back on it, it's like, I'll raise my kids how I want to raise my kids. And, to this day, there are people that think like, because it's the way I treat my kids, the way I joke around with the kids and talk about, I'll tell them they're dumb or I'll tell them whatever. But we have a great relationship, and it just doesn't make sense to some people. But like back then, I think we were overly sensitive about how, how we raised our kids, and also not only just our kids, but like how we have our wedding and how we do things. It was more important to us to make sure that our parents approved of our wedding and our stuff than, I wish we hadn't done that, but I mean, it worked.
I mean, something worked. We're still married 26 years later. I just like to point out that on this podcast, the few things that I've mentioned about the wedding have been meaningful and touching, like the song that he wrote for me and his first thoughts when he saw me walk down the aisle. And the few things he's brought up have been how awful I was and that I was bridezilla and his groomsmen taking pictures of their junk with disposable cameras. And so these are the moments of our wedding that he remembers. And I remember the sentimental stuff. Like it was
I remember the sentimental. I remember how I felt. I remember, but it's just that other stuff happened as well.
Which guy was it that came down the aisle with the paper napkin in his tux? Was that Tony?
Probably.
Or Lee?
It was probably Tony.
I didn't even notice it till we were looking at pictures.
I actually forgot about that. That's the thing. That's what I was saying. That's the guys that I had in my wedding. So he and I I don't know this for a fact, but he and I probably put toilet paper coming out of the back of your like we probably planned all that just to be stupid. But that's the kind of stuff that, like, I just wish we had done more of that kind of stuff. But yeah, it 100% was Tony. He's the only one that would have done that.
That's it for this time. So next week, we're going to talk about Caleb because his birthday is next week.
Can I tell my favorite Caleb story? The 2-part story?
Now or next week?
No, next week.
Yeah? I don't know.
You know what it is.
No.
I got to tell that story.
We'll see. We're going to discuss this before next week. And then next Monday, tune in for All About Caleb.
Yeah.
Y'all have a great week.
Love you.
Love you, babe.
That's it for today's episode of Loving Our 25 to Life. Aww. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and found something to take with you on your own journey.
Remember, love is an adventure. Sometimes it's wild, sometimes it's calm, but it's always worth it.
Yes!
If you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who might need a little inspiration.
And don't forget to follow along for more episodes and vlogs documenting our travels, life lessons, and hopefully plenty of laughs.
Thanks for joining us. Until next time, keep loving life because it is the greatest adventure of all. Bye for now.
Bye.